sediments with their tangled root systems. They maintain water quality and clarity, filtering pollutants and trapping sediments originating from land. Serving as valuable nursery areas for shrimp, crustaceans, mollusks, and fishes, mangroves are a critical component of Belize's commercial and recreational fishing industries. These habitats provide a rich source of food while also offering refuge from predation. In addition to commercially important species, mangroves also support a number of threatened and endangered species. In conjunction with its sister non-governmental organizations, the Belize Audubon Society commissioned a current study to quantify the changes in mangrove cover within the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System World Heritage Site since 2010, which has been placed on the World Heritage Endangered List since 2009. Research scientist Dr. Emil Cherrington and Professor Rob Griffin of the University of Alabama in Huntsville took all of 3 months to complete the study.
There has been minimal clearing within the World Heritage Site across Belize though. However, outside of the World Heritage Site, mangrove clearing is still an issue. Right now, Belize still has roughly 95% of the mangrove cover it had in 1980, again, according to the satellite imagery.
With regards to the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System World Heritage Sites areas, what areas have been affected by mangrove clearing, and can you speak to some of the recommendations that you and Professor Griffin have come up with?
Yeah, so there are 7 protected areas which are part of the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System World Heritage Site. Of those 7 areas, only one of those, the Saltwater Key Marine Reserve, actually had any detectable clearing, no? And so that's also a positive thing, because again, we're only seeing clearing in one of those. In terms of the recommendations, not necessarily recommendations from us. Again, the different partners, the Belize Audubon Society and the ad hoc committee, working with UNESCO, etc., have already, I believe, come up with recommendations in terms of determining what the land tenure on these islands are, to see, first of all, if the clearings that were being done are happening legally, illegally, what have you. It seems like the land tenure issue is something important to resolve.
Well, hopefully this helps to contribute to the conversation on how to address these types of mangrove clearings and sort of what the future of mangrove forests in Belize looks like.
The idea of the study was we wanted to know a status of the mangrove within the Belize Barrier Reef, and then we wanted the bigger, wider context. The bigger, wider context is not surprising to many of us. It really did flag the hot spots that we know where development is occurring in Ambergris Key, Placencia, and Belize City, obviously. Our specific interest, which was the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System, the World Heritage Site, what we saw in this study is actually very positive. We have seen that there is minimal change in mangroves since the inscription on the endangered list. So this positive result has been shared with the relevant government entities, who are also part of the ad hoc steering committee for this project, and they are submitting it now to the UNESCO in our State of Conservation report, where we are now saying that since the inscription to now, so the past 7 years, we have seen negligible or minimal mangrove change. So that is one more checklist, one more check item in terms of the status of mangrove in the country.
And while the change to mangrove cover in protected areas have been minimal, Dr. Cherrington says that government and NGOs need to arrive at a consensus of how to manage these protected areas.
It's really up to the country, up to all the different partners to kind of decide kind of where Belize wants to go, in terms of its development. There are clearings within protected areas, no? The laws of Belize state that protected areas are not supposed to be modified. So one can consider that disconcerting. However, there has to be, I guess, a consensus of the different partners to kind of figure out, which areas you're going to develop, how you're going to do that, etc. I don't know that the state of the discussion is there yet, but that's something that has to be done.
On a positive note, in the grander scheme of things, Dr. Cherrington also noted that since 1980 to 2017, Belize have retained 94.6% of its mangrove cover.
Over the 37-year period, we looked at the 3 main areas that had the most clearing would be around Belize City, around Ambergris Key, and around Placencia. There's practically clearing across the country, but in these areas it's where you have concentrated clearing. In Belize City, most people realize places like Belama, Bella Vista, Vista Del Mar outside of Belize City, but would be used to actually be mangrove, and as the city has expanded, it's expanded into those mangroves now.
And while this morning the findings of the research was presented, Amanda Burgess indicated that the NGOs will undergo a 2-day training starting today on how to use open source data to monitor mangrove cover.
Our request as part of this project was to actually build capacity within the country. As many know, enforcement is always lacking in Belize, and what we're hoping is that from the training that we acquire between this afternoon and tomorrow, we'll have enough tips and know-how of how to do some basic using NASA kind of satellite imagery, free open sourced imagery, that we can do some regular checks in terms of the status of development mangrove, so we can keep on top of the matter. It's far more effective to be in your office looking on the computer than having vessels and people out there. And we would still have to ground truth and involve the relevant agencies, but this training is open to fisheries, forest, and other partnered NGOs.
Reporting for Krem News, Orson Pickard.